welcome to our new YouTube channel, Low Limit Poker Challenge. This is a hand breakdown of a hand I recently played about 1 hour ago. It's 5 a.m. I played this hand about 3:30 a.m. at the peak of the table craziness. So I had moved to a new table about 2 a.m. and by 3:30 a.m. We were having so much fun. Like the instant I moved there. Angel was one of the guys. Angel from our session 5 video. So yeah, on fun tables, the hand ranges change. You're definitely gonna have a wider range of hands in almost every situation. So I had established a very crazy image like I usually do. And for some reason, everyone kept on asking me questions about hand. People were interested in the YouTube video. And I wouldn't say I was a table captain. That would probably be Angelo because he was talking the most. But I was definitely a very active player. And, we had been talking about a bunch of hands and people were asking me about how to play this, how to play that. So people seemed to be very open and honest, to say it one way. So anyway, one guy limped in early position. I raised to $13 in middle position with King 10 of spades. And everyone folded that was in position on me. The small blind called $13. And the big blind called $13. And the guy that had limped in folded. So it was 3 of us seeing the flop. Now there's about $40 in the flop before the rake. So about $37 in the pot. So the flop comes out very, very favorable to me. It was King 6-3. So I got top pair with a 10 kicker. It was a rainbow flop. The first guy checks. The second guy, who was very active and open to talking about hands with me, he bets $21. And I thought it was slightly odd that he bet $21 instead of a more normal amount like 20 or 25. But anyone that's played with me knows that I always bet very weird amounts. And I thought that he was kind of betting this amount partially because of his conversations with me. Partially because he had kind of thought as the $13 pre-flop bet was kind of my bet. And, he started doing the 13 pre-flop to try to make it like fun and go along with what I was doing. So when he bet 21 in the flop instead of 20 or 25, I thought it was somewhat the fun thing to do, to bet the 21. I decided to call his bet. And the big reason why I decided to call his bet instead of raise was because I wanted him to bet again on the turn. And I thought if he had a fun type of a hand and he already had the lead in the hand, I wanted him to continue having the lead. Now, a 10 kicker is not something that I am super proud of or confident of, but you play the cards that you get, and I thought the 10 kicker favored to be the best hand. I thought he could even have hands like on a King 6-3 board. He could even have hands like Ace 3, like 6-7, like pocket sevens. I would definitely put those hands in his range, and I definitely wasn't just figuring he had top pair or better. So for those reasons, I thought calling was a far better play than raising because I wanted to keep his marginal hands in play. So the guy in the small blind, he folded. Now it's just me in the big blind. The turn comes out and it's a 2. So if he had 4-5, then he just made a straight. So he continues and he bets $21 again. So again, I'm thinking this is like the fun amount, but it's also the same exact amount that he bet on the flop, which in my mind is a little bit of weakness. So I thought he could have a king with a bad kicker, and he could have a hand like a 6 anything or a 3 anything. He could have 4-5 and just pretending to be weak, have the straight. But I thought, factoring in the entire range of hands that he could have, I thought he was definitely much weaker than King 10. I didn't even think it was close. I thought that my hand was a favorite far more often than not. So Now I decided that since he bet 21, it seems like the type of bet that he wants to keep the pot small. So as an opponent of his, I kind of want to do the opposite of what he wants. I decided to put in a raise to $51. One, because I wanted him to put more money in the pot, and two, because I didn't necessarily want him to fold. I wanted him to kind of stick around. So I thought there's a chance I am far ahead if he has a king with a worse kicker or a hand like pocket sevens or something. So for those reasons, I wanted him to stick around. I didn't feel too worried that he would actually hit a better hand in the river and I wouldn't realize it. So I tried to keep my raise relatively small and keep some inferior hands in. So he ends up calling the $30. So he's out of position, remember. And I'm talking to him, and I did not want him to bet big in the river. And since it was kind of a playful table, I told him what I was going to bet on the river. And basically what I was trying to do was I was trying to get him to check so I could bet the amount that I wanted, which was $31. And I wanted him to just call. So that's not what happened. Maybe I did something wrong by talking, but I kind of induced him to go all in, and he ended up going all in for $112. I didn't even ask the amount, I just ballparked it, but later in the hand I asked how much it was, and it was $112. And I was like, gulp, that is not what I was envisioning him to do in the river. He clearly didn't get the mental notes of how I planned this hand out. So it was an ace on the river. I don't know if I said that. It was an ace on the river. It was offsuit, so just to quickly go over the board, it was K63, 2, ace. The 2 brought a backdoor flush draw. The ace was offsuit. And he goes all in on the river. And I'm thinking, how did the ace help his hand? Now, he could have hands like ace 3 and ace 6, but those are kind of unlikely. I'm kind of cherry-picking hands. He could have a hand like king queen, and he doesn't know what to do, and he's kind of ignoring the ace, and he's trying to continue to represent strength. I've seen that happen at the 1-2 table pretty often, and a lot of times being out of position, players don't really know what to do. And he could have a hand like ace whatever and just happen to have hit the ace. I mean, he might have had a ace 4 or ace 5. He could have had ace high flush draw and just happened to hit the ace high flush draw on the turn. But those seem kind of unlikely. And I kind of thought that he had like a one pair type of hand, like pocket sevens or a king with the bad kicker. And he was using the ace as an opportunity to bluff me off the pot. Now, I'm going to give you some of my secrets here. He was staring right at me. He was staring directly at me. I didn't view him as a player that had enough experience in the game to be giving reverse tells. So I took this for face value, that he was staring at me, so he basically wanted to convey strength. And if he wanted to convey strength, then he was somewhat weak. So that's one thing. Also, he was always a talkative player with me, and he said a couple of things throughout the hand, and it's not exactly what he said, but it's almost like the tone of voice, kind of like, I'll show you, and, we don't need to, kind of like the attitude, like, we don't need to fight over this pot, in general, that kind of attitude. I was thinking for about 60 to 90 seconds, someone called the clock on me, and they thought that influenced my decision. It didn't. I ended up throwing up in a red chip with my own king 10, a king with a 10 kicker, second pair. I wasn't super excited about it, but I thought enough times here he is going to be bluffing. And I was somewhat happy to see that he also had king 10. So when the ace came on the river, he was absolutely trying to blast me off my hand. He said he knew I had king 10, which I kind of believe. I think that was probably a very common hand for me to have, definitely right in the middle of my range. So I do believe him in that. He was a very friendly guy, so I don't think he was trying to take advantage of me, but he definitely kind of had the attitude, because it was a fun table, that, if he thinks I have a king and an ace hits the river, now this is a good opportunity to blast me off my hand. But I think he gave away a few too many tells in the hand, and I've just had some experience playing 1-2, and this was a tough decision, but I ended up making the call because I thought, because of all the different hands he could have had, my hand probably beat more than half of them. And, considering there was already over $100 in the pot, plus it's like $100 12 to win his 112 plus whatever's in the pot. Definitely getting 2 to 1. And the fact that I could beat more than 50% of his range. I think it was a good call. And if you're watching this video, it was a very good bet. It was a tough decision for me, but in the end, I think I was able to evaluate it and make the right decision. Another thing, after I made the call, about 5 or 6 people on the table said good call to me about 10 times each. It was kind of overwhelming, so I was pretty proud about the call. I didn't think it was that amazing of a call until everyone said good call to me, like, 10 times each, like 60 times in total. It was kind of ridiculous. So I am happy that I made the call. I wasn't going to feature that hand, but it was probably my toughest decision of the day. And it is nice to call someone's all-in bet with second pair, weak kicker, and be correct for the most part. I mean, we ended up chopping the pot, but thought it was a pretty interesting hand. So thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing. Don't forget to like the video if you do like it, and tell other people about the channel if they might be interested in learning about poker, or they just play 1-2 no limit and they want to see a channel that talks about issues that might relate to them. So in an hour or two, we will be uploading our official session 6 video, which was kind of a fun table for the second half of the day. So it might be interesting. Thanks for watching, guys.